Welcome to Chiles and Smoke. I'm Brad Prose, and I'm sitting casually in front of this delicious bowl of restaurant-style Chipotle salsa that I cannot wait to dive into. This salsa is the perfect consistency, and it's smoky, spicy, sweet from the fire-roasted tomatoes, and it's a weekly staple in our house. I mean, it just goes on friggin' everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and eat this while you watch how to make it. All right, let's start prepping the salsa. Now this is really easy. It starts with one key ingredient, which is fire roasted tomatoes. And I know you might be thinking like, why not use fresh tomatoes? Well, I did say this was a restaurant style salsa. So when you're doing restaurant style salsas, typically they're making really large batches. So you want something that's consistent. They process better for this type of salsa too. Whoops, didn't pierce that good. I guess I'm not used to using can openers. So when you're blending these, you end up having actually less water content from these tomatoes as well. It's nice because then your salsa ends up more consistent, not as watery, which you can get from using fresh tomatoes. Now, want to point out, I'm going to be using a food processor today instead of a blender. I find that using a blender will tend to create a lot of foam and actually breaks down the cells of the tomatoes even further to where the salsa does become more watery. So I'm doubling down on the recipe today. I was just gonna do 1 can of the fire roasted tomatoes. Use your preferred brand, but I know I'm gonna eat a lot. So we'll start there. We've got the fire roasted tomatoes. Next up would be the chipotle. So you can make fun of my accent all you want. I've got a Mexican wife, so I'm a total mix between American and Mexican pronunciation, so I'm not ashamed. But anyway, so we've got the chipotles and adobo. Now, if you can find the jar, this is the best because you can reseal it, which I think is always really helpful. So for this recipe, depending on how hot you want it, I recommend at least 1 to 3 tablespoons of diced chipotles. Now, if they do come whole, you could go ahead and chop them up and mince them up. Like I said, these ones are minced. I'm bringing this in so you can see it a little better. Now, I'm making a double batch, so I'm gonna go ahead and do about 5 scoops. Okay, so from here, we're also gonna be adding jalapeno. I like 2 layers of flavor. I think that the chipotle adds this nice savory, smoky profile, and jalapenos are sharp, hot, just adds a nice layer to the salsa. All right, so let me show you a trick on how I like to trim jalapenos the easy way. You actually take your blade and work around the seed pit here. Sometimes you might cut into it a little bit, but this is kind of a nice, easy way. Just rotate the jalapeno and you'll get most of the skin, or I guess flesh, off the outside. And then you're just left with the chili pod. So, I mean, you can keep it if you want to. I think it's really hot for the salsa, so I'm gonna toss it. And then the best thing about making this salsa is we only just need to chop the ingredients into some manageable pieces because the food processor's gonna do a lot of the work for us. So you don't need it to be perfect, but you don't want super large chunks either. Okay, so this recipe calls for 1 clove of garlic, but as you know, not all cloves are an equal size. So I'd say just use your judgment. I'd go for kind of the average size clove, whatever that is. And again, you just need to peel and then roughly chop this too, because again, it's going in the food processor. If I can peel it, of course, I normally use a little paring knife to do this, which I should do. Dang it, I'm gonna get it. All right, here we go. Yeah, this is so much better for peeling garlic. You can just cut off the end and then peel back and you get all that skin off. I'm gonna get out a bench scraper to make this a little easier. All right, now let's go ahead and chop the garlic. Again, just really rough chops. You just don't want a whole chunk of garlic in there. Okay, now for an onion. Onions come in all different shapes and sizes, so I would say go for a small to medium onion. Large one's probably just gonna be way too overpowered for this. So this is a small one. I'm gonna use the whole onion because I'm doing a double batch. And again, this is great because rough chops, don't worry about your knife skills today. just get it off the root and we'll get it into a bowl. Almost forgot the cilantro. Sorry, hands are wet. I just washed it. You can use the stems and the leaves if you want to. I do. I think the stems have great flavor on here. It's really up to you. You're gonna want about a half cup. So measure that out carefully. If you're just using the leaves, it's kind of a pain in the butt, which is why I also use the stems. And we'll get that added in here. Okay, I'm gonna clean up and we'll talk about this restaurant-style salsa a little more because honestly, this is one of the best textures ever that is salsa that you can have. It's just got this nice, smooth consistency. It's the kind that most restaurants will serve. A lot of times it can be a variation of salsa roja. They can have habanero salsa. There's lots of different kinds that you'll have. This is more of like a salsa roja, which is like a red salsa. I'm gonna be adding lime. I would say lime to taste is probably preferred. We like a lot of lime in our salsa, so my wife will always ask me to add more if there's not enough. She is not afraid to ask for more, and I don't mind. It's pretty good. Salt to taste. So we are gonna add some, I like coarse kosher salt, which is how most kosher salt comes. I like a decent amount of salt. You know, we're salting tomatoes. Think about it that way. The tomatoes that I buy are not seasoned. They're just the fire roasted tomatoes. So you need a lot of flavor in here, and let's go ahead and blend it up. Get this set on the base and snap on that lid. And let's let the magic happen. All right, so this is pretty full, so I might need a little bit more pulsing, but let me grab a spoon. Okay, I'm going to taste test. Oh man, it's so good. This seriously is just, I could make a meal out of this. And I have. My wife is gonna be happy today because this is one of her favorite salsas, and I tend to pretty much eat everything when I make salsa. So, boy, I made a mess on the side here. All right, I guess this was like max capacity for this food processor because it's almost leaking out the sides. There we go. Check that out. Now all I need is a bowl of chips, maybe a beer. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning, so I mean, I do work from home. Let's try it. I'm gonna need a couple minutes. It's overflowing, so I better eat some. If you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed this salsa, I don't know about that, but like and subscribe below. Helps me grow so I can make more videos that hopefully you enjoy. Leave a comment below if there's a recipe you'd like to see. Cheers, see you next time.